All right, perfect. Perfect. Dude, Furones, that Nick Chubb injury, man. I was telling somebody, I was saying I hope that there's not, all the quarterbacks that got injured last year, and I was saying I hope that there's not a top player injury trend this year, starting with Joe Burrow and going to Aaron Rodgers. Now we got Chubb, and I mean Jalen Phillips, Jalen
Well,
Waddle. Even
I
though
saw, I
Waddle
saw
shouldn't.
someone tweet Monday Night Football. Apparently, there's a curse now because now you go back the past 3 weeks of Monday Night Football, dating back to last year. DeMar Hamlin, that happened.
Oh no!
Aaron
Oh,
Rodgers, Achilles, and then now Nick Chubb.
dude, I didn't think about that. Wow, that's brutal.
Yeah,
That's brutal, man.
another Monday Night Football doubleheader.
Yeah. That's right, man. Shoot. And I'm ready.
Yeah,
Let me,
fire off a tweet.
make sure make sure I'm centered and all that kind of stuff here. Okay. Yep. Yep. To my right. Yeah. All right.
All good.
Okay. Hey, and I'm going to do the Furones bonus between segments 3 and 4. Between, what did I say? Actually, between 3 and 4. After, should they bring in kickers, and before, stop me if I'm overreacting. Not before the prediction, Furones. I told you wrong.
Right,
Okay.
I went off the numbers you gave me, so that's cool.
Okay, perfect.
Yes, yeah. So I saw the inconsistency, but
Yes, do as I do, not as I say. In reverse. All right. Perfect. What's up, Dolphins fans? Your red-hot Miami Dolphins remain atop the AFC East at 2-0 after Sunday's 24-7 win at 24-17 win at New England. Now, this is the second consecutive 2-0 start for Coach Mike McDaniel and the Dolphins, but this one feels different. This one feels a little more assertive. Maybe it's because it's more on a Super Bowl path. Maybe. Look, you think the Dolphins are going to crush the winless Broncos on Sunday, and they probably will, but you always have to keep an eye on that injury situation. What's up, Dolphins fans? Thanks for joining us on this week's edition of Dolphins Deep Dive. I'm your host, Chris Perkins, your Dolphins columnist at the South Florida Sun Sentinel. That's your boy, David Furones. He's your Dolphins beat writer. A quick reminder, you can get this podcast on a number of platforms, including Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Now, look, your Dolphins have a ton of momentum heading into Sunday's home opener against the downtrodden Denver Broncos, coached by Sean Payton. You remember he started the season throwing barbs at ex-Broncos coach Nate Hackett and the entire Denver organization. He repeated this by reportedly telling Russell Wilson to stop kissing babies. You're not running for public office, meaning Russell Wilson needs to get back to the nuts and bolts of the game and forget the glamour. Sean Payton, boy, he has made quite an impression. Meanwhile, injuries are still a factor for the Dolphins. Right now, we're watching Jalen Waddle, who is in concussion protocol. We're watching Jalen Phillips, who has a back injury. And we're watching Teron Armstead, who I believe has ankle, back, and knee concerns. Now, you might not need that trio this week. You're certainly going to need them in 2 weeks when you go to Buffalo. Now, that's looking too far ahead, though. It's Denver this week. Let's dive in. Furones, welcome to the show, man. Segment 1, we're going with the run game. And the question is, are you all in on Raheem Mostert in that run game? Now, you know me. I was the dude who kept saying Dalvin Cook is essential personnel. Dalvin Cook has 17 carries for 40 yards, and he's looked kind of old. Raheem Mostert looks young. He looks fresh. He runs physical at times. Furones, what do you think about Raheem Mostert, and is this run game here to last?
Well, this is what I've been trying to say, Perk. Go back into the archives of this show. I like the Dolphins' run game coming back in unison, and always felt if they added a Dalvin Cook or a Jonathan Taylor, it would only be a luxury add. It wasn't something out of necessity. The run game is fine the way it is. Mostert's doing much better than Cook right now. Jonathan Taylor is on the PUP right now anyway, and if he was healthy, would he have done anything better than what Mostert did Sunday with those carries? If Taylor has the same game on Sunday Night Football, then everyone would be applauding the organization for pulling the trigger on the deal and saying Mostert would have never done the same when, well, we just saw he did. And on top of that, you still have Jeff Wilson. He's got to come back, and I'm sure he'll be very fresh when he returns off that 4-week mandatory absence from starting on injured reserve. I think he was probably close to, I mean, even going back to that preseason game, Mike McDaniels said he may have played him in that had he needed to. So maybe some inconsistencies on the timeline we're hearing on that, but especially now that you see he's out for the first 4 weeks. But I think he'll probably come back right at the start of when he's available to return and be very fresh off of that with dealing with the midsection and finger injuries. So you still have time to develop Devon A-Chain. Savon Ahmed has been great, although now you're also monitoring his groin injury. That shouldn't be too serious. I really like this Dolphins run game, and Raheem Mostert, for being as speedy of a guy he is, he could also break tackles and run physically. We heard Mike McDaniel yesterday say he's pound for pound maybe the strongest guy on the team. So that's really great balance that he brings into his style of running.
Yeah, and look, I was trying to get in on the chat, but I think the conversation from the show got in on it. Roger, I'm sorry I drive you crazy, man. Yeah, hang with me. He said I drive him crazy, but he likes my guests, so he likes you more than me, Furones. All right, so look,
he's not the only one. He's not the only one.
No, I know. I've been made well aware of that. It's all good, baby. It's all good. The run game, the play calling seems to be a little bit better, and it's more frequent, right? And so I think that helps the offensive line get into a groove because, look, this isn't a road grading offensive line, but I do think it's a good run blocking offensive line. I think it's a good physical offensive line. I think they're better at run blocking than they are at pass protection, actually. So I think the play calling plays into their strength as far as the runs. And look, Furones, last week we saw 30 runs and 30 passes. That's balance that we rarely see out of Mike McDaniel. Last year they had 33 runs against Cleveland, 32 runs against the Jets. Those were the only the game here against the Jets. Those were the only 2 times they went beyond 30. Twice they had 27 carries at New England and against Pittsburgh. But then, there were, I guess, between 25 carries or more. I think I have them for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games. So that's respectable. But you also had like the 18 carry Charger game, which I know they didn't run many plays there. But, my point is, I think this benefits the offense. I think it benefits the offensive line. I think it helps keep the defense off balance. And so I want to see more runs. You know me, though. I still think it's 1978 Furones. I like run game defense. But I do think that it benefits the overall game plan. It helps the play calling. It helps the offensive line. It helps Tua. I think it helps the pass game. And when Tua throws off of play action, he's a much more effective quarterback. So, I'm not convinced. I'm not sold yet. I'm coming down off of the Dalvin Cook as essential personnel claim. But it's only week 2. So give me a little time to decompress and join the rest of y'all sober-minded thinking folks when you look at this Dolphins team. I'm still a little drunk on last year's run game, so I've got to sober up in that respect, huh?
Which, by the way, the run game was okay last year on a yards per carry basis. It was just a matter of running the ball more, which I guess now we are seeing Mike McDaniel do. What was the stat you said? 30 runs to 30 passes?
Yep.
Man, When it's going like that, just call Mike McDaniel's offense the credit card statement, the way it displays outstanding balance.
Look at you, Verona. I see that's like third level stuff. I like that. Hey, say something for the Furones bonus now.
That one had been in my drafts, in my Twitter drafts, and then I just had to debut it here on the show when I heard that stat. So,
very nice,
I should have used it at some point last game, but so much going on, I never did. But we know Mike McDaniel, he likes to go with the looks that he gets from the defense. So he's not going to force the run into a crowded box, and he doesn't want to force the pass when you see Patriots playing off coverage, 3 safety looks. He wanted Tua to take what the defense gave him, which he did for the most part, aside from he did try to go deep that one time to Tyreek Hill, and it got intercepted. But I do love all the misdirection that Mike McDaniel has included in the run game. He is in his bag again. Like his last year as OC, or the 1 year he was offensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers when he had Deebo Samuel doing all those runs, all that stuff. And I think his first year as head coach, the added responsibilities and overlooking the overall operation maybe limited some of that offensive creativity for himself. And I think now going into year 2, we're seeing a lot of that pop back up, and you see it with Eric Ezukanma on end arounds and then getting into the backfield, and then the different things, the misdirections, where it's a full loaded playbook just in the run game alone.
It is. No, he looks much more comfortable in year 2 as a head coach, and that's kind of what we all expected, I think. All right, Furones, let's migrate over to segment 2. Are the Dolphins the best team in the AFC East? And we definitely said that after last week, right, when the Jets upset the Buffalo Bills. Now, this week, Buffalo kind of got their house back in order against the Raiders, didn't they? And so we saw, Josh Allen kind of getting more into form, and we saw Buffalo doing more Buffalo things. So, Furones, right now, are the Dolphins still the best team in the AFC East, or are you flipping to Buffalo, the team that most people have as the division favorite?
Now, yeah, and even before the season, I was still thinking Buffalo to win the season, and maybe Miami would be one of the top wild cards. And obviously, week 1 had you going away from that. And I don't ever want to overreact too much week to week. Dolphins still have to play over there week 4 in 2 weeks, so that'll be a really telling sign. And at least you won't have the climate, the weather factor so much in that early season trip to Buffalo as opposed to going later. But also do remember that the Dolphins, even when they weren't as close to Buffalo, or even if you want to say past Buffalo, like they probably maybe are this year, they competed with them in 3 games, won one of them, and then a last-second field goal in another, and then in a playoff game without Tua Tagovailoa, Skylar Thompson down to the third-string quarterback, who was completing under 50% of his passes in that game. They competed and almost won. They had a lead late in a playoff game, and then there was a bunch of other stuff that was happening with getting the plays in and delay of game penalties that otherwise, even with the third-string quarterback, you might still be able to pull off that upset. So it's going to be really fun to watch these 2 teams compete. You thought it was going to be a 3-headed race or 3-horse race with the Jets and Aaron Rodgers in there as well. Then they still pull off the win week 1, but man, I think we saw kind of the sobering moment week 2, and the offense just dip right back down kind of to what it should be as they played Dallas in week 2 under Zach Wilson, where you're still not going off. You're not going off the adrenaline anymore of week 1, and then now you got to really actually perform consistently with Zach Wilson week to week. I think that's going to be a struggle for the Jets. So. I think week 4 will be telling in that race. I don't want to put all the eggs in that basket either, because there's still a long season, and then the Dolphins have to play the regular season finale at home against Buffalo anyway. So still a lot to settle. But Josh Allen, his turnovers, they kind of concern me a little bit if I'm looking at it from the Buffalo standpoint.
Yeah. And look, that's who Josh Allen is, right? That again, he's one of those rare quarterbacks, as they say, who can keep both teams in the game at the same time. And if you're Buffalo, that is one of your major concerns. Look, health for the Dolphins is a concern, and we alluded to it earlier. Jalen Waddle, Jalen Phillips, Teron Armstead. you need those guys in 2 weeks. I don't know if you necessarily need them this week. I'll say this, well, let me say this. I think Buffalo. I've still got Buffalo to win the division. It's early. That's who I had preseason, and I'm going to stick with it. I'm not going to let that Jets loss sway me too much. But as I've said, ever since the offseason, the gap is definitely closing between the Dolphins and the Bills. It's not what it was at this time a year ago. It is much, much closer. And so, Tremaine Edmonds gone to Chicago. I think, didn't he have like 18 tackles in one of the games for the Bears, I think? So, but anyway.
Leslie Frazier not there, leading the defense this year. That's huge.
Correct. No Leslie Frazier. Yeah. So the Bills have to have some adjusting to do. But Furones, we're going to get into this injury situation a little bit later. But for the Denver game, what would you do with Jalen and Teron? I think that I don't want to be arrogant or looking ahead, but if all three of them needed one more week, I would give them one more week. I think next week against Buffalo is when you need them more. But do you kind of, I don't want to say disrespect Denver like that, but what you got to look long term, right?
Yeah, well, if Teron Armstead and Jalen Phillips were game time decisions for week 2 against the Patriots, and I would think that they could be ready for a week 3 game. And Teron Armstead especially, I would like him to get this game under his belt before going into Buffalo. Maybe not have that be your first time back. I know he can always deal with an injury and manage himself week to week, but I think I want to get him a game under his belt against Denver and at home, a nice environment where because he's coming back from an injury as opposed to just managing himself week to week. So I do want to see him get those game reps. So I think it was good that he got a practice week without playing. You still ended up getting the win at New England without him. And then I want to see him get a game now under his belt and then go into Buffalo already now having that second game where I think that'll benefit him a lot. Jalen Phillips, I know Mike McDaniels said he was really frustrated not to be able to go. So it seems like he was close. Maybe you can get him some snaps if he's available, but just kind of be cautious with it. You don't want him getting hurt either. And obviously, you're never disrespecting an opponent. But it's good that for both of those guys, Kendall Lamb has filled in very admirably. And then also Andrew Van Ginkel was incredible coming in, which, by the way, I think you saw it too. Pre-game, the Dolphins showed Emmanuel Ogbah lining up with the first-team defense. And I think it was a mind bleep that Mike McDaniel was trying to show Bill Belichick pre-game. We haven't gotten that question to him with so many other things to check on. And he probably wouldn't even admit it if we did. Right. But yeah, I think he was trying to get them shuffling for Ogbah, and then it was all AVG or a little bit of Ogbah. But I mean, the game AVG had, he had the Patriots all out of sorts. So that was cool to see. And we're also monitoring Jalen Waddle as well in concussion protocol. So I think Mike McDaniel said he was already progressing. So I would say if he's ready to go, then go ahead and play him. And especially because the Denver Broncos, and we'll get into the matchup a little bit later, Patrick Surtain on the other side. So if he's covering Tyreek Hill and then he ends up limiting him in any way, then I do want that second big-time receiver to be able to go to.
Yeah, just a brilliant job by Mike McDaniel on that Ogbah Van Ginkel thing. He had us fooled. He had the Patriots fooled. And by the way, on Jalen Waddle, I wrote this and I tweeted it, but just for what it's worth, in the post-game locker room there in New England, Jalen Waddle is sitting there at his locker next to Tyreek Hill, and we're interviewing Tyreek Hill, and we can't interview players who have left the game and didn't return after being injured, especially if they have a head injury. But Jalen Waddle was sitting there. He was on his phone. He was smiling. He was laughing. He was talking to Eric Ezukama. And we asked Tyreek, how is Jalen doing? And Tyreek said, hang on. And he turns around and he says, Jalen, how you doing? And Waddle laughed and he said, I'm good. So, with you take that with Mike McDaniel saying that he's already progressing. And so you can be pretty positive about the direction that things are going with Jalen Waddle. Furones,
And to the viewers, this is why you come to us. These are the insights that you only get here. Perk is noticing or he's in the locker room, finding these anecdotes with the players' interaction that leads you to some nuggets and news, and this is what we're noticing. This is from being present out there, seeing the pregame warm-ups with Agba and Van Ginkel. Those little tidbits. This is why you come to us, guys.
That's it, baby. Keep the eyes open and follow us when we're out there on the road, because it all matters. It all matters. Furones, let's go over to segment 3, and we got to bring up the kicking game again, right? Jason Sanders, he's got a missed extra point this year, a missed 55-yard field goal attempt, and a blocked 49-yard field goal attempt. Although the block, you can't blame that on him. Brilliant play by the Patriots, but the question is, do the Dolphins need to bring in kickers today? Tuesday is the day that NFL teams will bring people in for workouts. It's the NFL off day, if you didn't know. Tuesday is the day that teams don't practice. Monday, you do your game wrap up, you watch video, you might have some meetings, loosen up a little bit. Tuesday is the off day, and then Wednesday you put in the game plan for the next day and start to look ahead. So on Tuesday, if you need cornerbacks, if you need wide receivers because of injury or people aren't performing, you usually bring in 2 or 3 per position, 3 linebackers, 3 wide receivers, 2 or 3 kickers. Do you think the Dolphins need to bring in kickers today, Furones?
See, I wouldn't make a change yet because it is still 50-yarders, which are still difficult to hit. Right. I know now it's the expectation in the league, but there was once a time when a 50-yarder was outstanding, exceptional. Right. I remember actually just when I was young that the announcers would go nuts that a kicker hit a 50-yarder. So, I'm getting older, but that still wasn't that too far off.
I was going to say, was that last year or what? What are you talking about? Yeah.
I'm thinking back 20 years or so, early 2000s, late 90s. It was an impressive feat when a kicker hit a 50-yarder. So now these days it is the expectation. And if now Mike McDaniel also had that decision to make of going for the field goal, which would put the score out of reach, but in missing it, it gave the Patriots exceptional field position. So that was a tough call. I know he said yesterday he wanted to go for it on 4th down, but then another constant issue that we're seeing, the snap exchanges. That happened then. You lose some yards on that when you had 3rd and 1. You could have put the game away just by on offense with the down situation, getting a new set of downs, but that turned its head at the worst time, and so you had kind of those back-to-back things: the field goals and the snap exchanges hitting you at the same time. So I would say I'm not making a change yet, but the seat is getting mild for Jason Sanders because this was an issue throughout last season. And then, it is a 55-yarder, so those are tough to hit. The blocked field goal, you can't blame on him, but now it's 2 weeks in a row where you have a chance to, in this case, put a team away. Last time it was make it a 3-point game. If either of those go against the Dolphins where the defense doesn't come up with the stop at the end, then we are really pointing a finger at Jason Sanders. So he's fortunate that it hasn't happened yet. The defense got the stop against the Chargers, got a 2-point win. All they needed was a field goal to win in that situation because of the failed extra point. And in this case, if the Patriots would have driven down the field and then either tie or go for 2 and win, then that would have been catastrophic for Jason Sanders. But the seat is getting mild, I would say, because it happened last year. There was a missed extra point 1 week, missed 55-yard field goal. But I do know Danny Crossman, special teams coordinator, he likes continuity with his specialists. He was talking about that just the other week after the team signed Blake Ferguson, the long snapper, to a contract extension, that he wants specialists together for a long time. They just brought in Jake Bailey, so he hopes that forms that triumvirate, that trifecta together: Jason Sanders, Jake Bailey, and Blake Ferguson. So I don't think they'll move off of Jason Sanders very quickly based on hearing that. But if this continues to happen, then you do have to start bringing in kickers.
Yeah, look, I agree with you. It's not time to bring in kickers yet, but you've got a list. If you're Chris Greer, you've got a list of available kickers that you're probably updating every week. I did talk to Jason Sanders after the game, and look, he told me that he's hitting the ball well, and he said if he wasn't hitting the ball well, he would be more concerned, but that he is hitting the ball well, so he's not too concerned. He, let me see if I get this right, he pushed Right, yeah, he pushed the missed extra point wide right and pulled the field goal wide left. So that's right, right? I think that's right.
Yeah, definitely the pulling left. Now I can't remember the extra point, but you might
I
be
think
right.
it went wide right. But anyway, he said that he's hitting the ball well. Here was a thing about the blocked field goal for Furones that and I didn't see this, but somebody was saying that there's something online talking about how the Patriots might have read Jake Bailey because Jake Bailey used to be with the Patriots and he's the holder, the Dolphins punter. And so they were kind of familiar with him and the cadence and everything like that. So that might be how they timed it up. But, he was in there perfectly to block that field goal attempt. They also tried the same thing on that 55-yarder, but the guy wasn't able to get in there in time. But I do have faith in Jason Sanders. You would like to see him get more consistent on these kicks of 50 and beyond because they are fairly common and fairly necessary in the NFL. Like you say, it's not like it used to be where that 50-yarder, you were like, wow, he hit from 50. Now you got college kids who routinely hit from 50. So, yeah, Sanders has got to get his accuracy up. I like Jason Sanders as a kicker and as a person. I talked to him and Jake Bailey and Blake Ferguson last week about something else in technology that
we know you cover special teams.
Yeah, I do. I love special teams.
You're in all three phases of the game, Perk.
Yes, yeah, and look, here's a little special teams thing. They brought in Chase Winovich this year, who was with the Patriots. I don't know if he helped with the Jake Bailey on the field goal block. I have no idea, but I'm always intrigued when teams bring in somebody the week that they're playing a team and that person played for the team. So we'll see, but I think you're safe with Jason Sanders. I still like him as a kicker.
And the hitting the ball well, that's reverberated by a lot by Danny Crossman. So he's really, they are consistent in that message because I remember hearing all last year, maybe the year before, whenever Sanders has struggled, which I guess there have been several instances where we end up asking Crossman about this, and he usually goes back to, well, he's hitting the ball well. Just he's echoing a similar sentiment there.
Yeah, and it's good to see that there's something positive there. It's not people just saying, well, I believe in Jason, I think he'll get it straight. They have something concrete to give us and something that's believable. So that's a good thing. All right, we're going to get to our new thing here, the Furones bonus, baby, the Furones bonus. So this, bonus. That's right. Yeah, we do need to get some kind of intro for this, don't we? So, this is going to be something that it could be food related. It could be music related. It could be pop culture related. It could be on the field in sports, off the field in sports. Because Furones he's a deep individual. He covers a lot of ground. So we need to get all of this stuff out there. That's it.
On deep dive.
That's right. So, all right, Furones, here's our inaugural Furones bonus. Through 2 games, is that field goal blocked by New England the best single play call we've seen in a Dolphins game? And let me set the stage here because we have Mike McDaniel going for it on 4th and 7, right, against the Chargers. We have Vic Fangio dialing up that Justin Bethel blitz against the Chargers. We had Tyreek Hill with that 35-yard touchdown against the Chargers that Mike McDaniel called, and that came after a Kader Kohou sack and a 34-yard punt by the Chargers. So you kind of take advantage. You had the Eric Ezukama deep pass against the Chargers that results in that defensive pass interference before halftime. Mike McDaniel is going for a field goal here. That field goal block, we just talked about it, Furones. It was a brilliant play call, absolutely brilliant. Nobody expected it. By the way, when I talked to Jason Sanders about that, he said we count on the op time, the operation time, the snap being there, and the kick being away to beat these guys who line up on the outside. So I don't know that the Dolphins were aware that was coming. I don't think they were by any stretch. But that's when somebody's lined up wide like that, they kind of look at him, they say, we get this snap off in 1.8 seconds. He's not going to be a factor. So is that the best single call that you've seen in a Dolphins game through 2 games, Furones?
First of all, I love how in the intro you hyped up the segment Furones bonus is dealing with all these other things. It could be pop culture, food, music, whatever else.
Oh.
And then it was still a football question.
I know.
All right. First one. It can also still be football. Or it could be mock football too. It could be something where we're joking around about the game. But that play specifically, and a lot of those examples were good ones, especially the last one you offered with drawing the pass interference to get down into field goal range against the Chargers. So this season, but I would have to give it to that play. Brendan Schooler for the Patriots coming off, timing it, running laterally. And yeah, being familiar with the Dolphins snap count, or is it really a count? I think it's Bailey moving his head, and then that's kind of how the snapper, holder, and kicker have that timing down. You would probably know more than me because you're always talking to the specialists, getting all these nuggets, covering the special teams to the great extent that you do. But to time it that way, the scouting, that's just Patriots special teams being prepared for a moment like that and then making a big play. And then just it was so unique because on the broadcast, Chris Collinsworth was watched countless games of football and called games of football. He said he has never seen it. I know I've never seen it, seeing a lot less football in my time than him. Even Mike McDaniels said post-game when I asked about it that he had never seen it. And here's another thing. Mike McDaniels said it was similar. It was based off a motion that the Dolphins run offensively. So, that's just a total mind blow that you would just steal from another team what they do offensively, use it on special teams on a field goal block formation. So I would say the never seen it before factor would give it the edge over the other examples, because there's been other times where a team drives down the field quickly to get a quick score. Which that would be the greatest competition that we've seen this season as far as the other options you gave me. But that was very impressive in its own right. But just this is the first time I have seen that. I would give it to it. And it almost changed the game. The Patriots picked up momentum off of that. They almost took it back for a touchdown. Christian Wilkins, who didn't pick up the initial block, because, of course, you wouldn't expect Schooler, who started way out on the sideline, is all of a sudden rushing and is right up on you. But then he did get back out there to make the touchdown-saving tackle. So, but that play was just phenomenal and a real example of Patriots special teams almost changing a game for their benefit.
No, I would agree with you. I think the Ezukama pass, the DPI, the defensive pass interference, might be second on the list, but just a brilliant play call by the Patriots. So, all right, baby, that's our Furones bonus. That is the debut of the Furones bonus. A lot more to come. It'll be coming in 2 weeks. Remember, Dave Hyde is on here next week, but we will have a Furones bonus for you after Buffalo, as a matter of fact.
Okay. Is it a true debut? Because we've had it. I think kind of just we've teased it. It's been a soft release.
Right.
Where I think it just came naturally in a couple of shows. And then now we're making it a segment here.
Yeah, it really dropped today. That's the thing. Yeah. This was it. All right, Furones, let's play a game here for segment 4. It's called Stop Me If I'm Overreacting. The game is pretty self-explanatory, right? I'll give a scenario and you tell me, stop me if I'm over. Big fans still.
Sorry, Perk, I lost you for a second there.
Okay, let's go to segment 4 here, Furones. We're going to play a game called Stop Me If I'm Overreacting. Pretty self-explanatory. You stop me if I'm overreacting on this. All right, here's our first. I got you.
All right. Oh, not yet. No. Okay. Starting now. Okay.
All right. Starting now. All right. Furones. The Dolphins defense had a hiccup in the opener. They allowed 34 points, but everything is fine now. Vic Fangio has got them pointed in the right direction. We saw him against New England getting turnovers, getting sacks. There's nothing to see. These guys are headed in the right direction.
Okay, not an overreaction. Yeah, I think you're. Yeah, did I get that right? Because you're saying the defense is fine. See, I believed in Fangio. I like the Dave Hyde's column, our colleague Dave Hyde, that he wrote this week, that if Fangio's defense is the Dolphins' biggest problem after week 1, and they're doing great right now, essentially is what he was saying, and I agree with that sentiment. Just that wouldn't have been my concern going into the season. Vic Fangio is a experienced veteran defensive mind. He's seen it all, been through it all. So just having that one off game, especially when it was in the run defense, where we knew this front seven was strong with so much continuity from last year. It was the 4th ranked run defense the year before. They just really didn't bring it. The physicality up front in week 1, and then they corrected that. We know we have Christian Wilkins talking about Zach Sealer lighting a fire under the team, and they came out with a different mindset, and it showed. So yeah, I even after week 1, I said, okay, I like Fangio and his defense to bounce back, and it showed week 2, albeit against the Patriots, so not like an offensive juggernaut or anything, but so we still want to see it against one of those powerhouse offenses, but yeah, so far I'm fine.
I think the defense is going to be fine. I'm a big fan of the defense, and I loved bringing in Fangio and Jalen Ramsey. I think you still got to work out a few things with this defense. What is the run defense actually going to be? There's a big difference between 233 and 88. So there's a lot of wiggle room in there. And let's see what the let's see what the secondary is going to do. I like them, but let's see them under some under duress a little bit more. Look, you did good against Justin, and you managed to keep Keenan Allen and Mike Williams under control, but Stephon Diggs is coming. But again, I do think this defense is going to be fine. I'm very optimistic about them, but there's going to be a learning curve. So it's not fine yet, but it's going to be fine. All right, Furones, let's go to our next scenario. Stop me if I'm overreacting. Injuries to the Dolphins' star players have already been an issue, and it's going to continue being an issue all year. Am I overreacting there?
Oh, wait, you want me to predict injuries? Is that what you're doing?
Look, we know the injury history on this team,
yeah.
Right? So
yeah. But what is impressive is that they're off to this 2-0 start without 2 of their best players. Teron Armstead hasn't played yet, and Jalen Ramsey hasn't played yet. So Jalen and among others as well. I mean, you still have Jeff Wilson that needs to come back. Maybe Nick Needham eventually. Brandon Jones is available, but still kind of probably a slow bring him back, ramp up period early in the season. Deshaun Elliott played every defensive snap last week. I think the first 2 weeks, and Brandon Jones got in on 2 in week 1, did not play on defense week 2, has been playing on special teams. But when he gets back, that'll also be a boost to the defense. So there's still so many things that so many guys that need to come back, just making all the more impressive. But I'm going to say, I guess, I would say overreaction, yes. So I think they will be fine. They're going to get back more than they end up losing later in the year, because now you're still bringing back Jalen Ramsey, Jalen Phillips, Teron Armstead, Jalen Waddle now after the concussion. And then you just pray for health for a lot of the other guys. But Teron Armstead, probably he's going to have some injuries to manage throughout the season, which he's done before. He did mostly play his games, just missed, what was it? What did he miss last year? Was it, and did it end up being?
I want to say 4.
4 was the number I was going to say. Yeah, he's averaged 5.5 in the several years before. So that's the big thing, is that they're going to get back guys. And Jalen Ramsey, that'll be the biggest mid to late season pickup that any team will have. There will not be any trade that any team makes at the deadline that will overcome or rank higher than the Dolphins adding essentially Jalen Ramsey late in the year.
Right, I agree. Look, the injuries to the star players are going to be something that we have to watch, because we know Teron has an injury history. We know Xavier Howard has an injury history. Jalen Ramsey is sidelined. We have to keep an eye on Tua. Austin Jackson. I know that last year was the only year for him, but it's still kind of fresh. So look, I don't think that this team is going to be. Well, I hope that they're not sidetracked by injuries the way they were last season. But that's the way they kind of built this team, aware that guys like David Long, who balled last game, but he's missed 6 games each of the last 2 seasons due to hamstring injuries. So it is going to be a concern. It is going to be something to watch. Hopefully it does not derail or sidetrack the season. All right, our last one here, and this might be the juiciest one, Furones. Stop me if I'm overreacting. Mike McDaniel is the Dolphins' most promising coach through 20 games since Don Shula. And let me give you some numbers here. Brian Flores, 6-14 through 20 games. Adam Gase, 11-9 with a playoff appearance, although it was a loss. Joe Philbin, 10-10. Tony Sperano, 11-9 with a playoff appearance. Nick Saban, 10-10. Dave Wanstead, 14-6 with a playoff victory. Jimmy Johnson, 10-10. I'll go first on this one. I think Mike McDaniel is the most promising. And I know Jimmy Johnson, that's a slap in the face to Jimmy Johnson, right? Who is, maybe on his way to the Hall of Fame. Dave Wanstead had a playoff victory. I think Wanstead had a better team. We thought back then, Jay Fiedler wasn't as good as Tua, but you did have Jason Taylor and Zach Thomas and Sam Madison and Pat Surtain and that defense. I think that was to me, that was the sentiment, but I think Mike McDaniel is innovative. He's come out of relatively nowhere compared to Jimmy Johnson and Dave Wanstead and Nick Saban. But the most promising coach, I really like what I see from Mike McDaniel, and that's with all due respect to Jimmy Johnson and Dave Wanstead and Nick Saban, guys who had more skins on the wall.
You reeled off all those records through 20 games for these coaches, and Brian Flores is 6-14. I think he may have more so been fired for getting too many wins in that stretch. When organization would have preferred to lose.
We know. Yeah, well, we know the owner would have preferred a few more, right? A few more losses.
Yeah, well, all right. So originally I was thinking, boy, yeah, that's got to be an overreaction because you got Jimmy Johnson in there who had won Super Bowls already before joining the Dolphins, had won a college national championship with the Miami Hurricanes. But if you're saying promising, then I guess Jimmy Johnson had already been established at that point. So I think the word promising goes off potential. And I think we see a lot of that in Mike McDaniel because he's had these guys going very well through his first 20 games. And then still coming off the first year had so much left to improve, so much room for improvement that I think we've already seen early on in year two. So, yeah, I'll go with you on that. So not an overreaction.
Yes. And look, admittedly, that might be a recency bias on my part. But I just look at McDaniel and what's ahead and what he's done with Tyreek and Tua and Jalen Waddle and what he could potentially do with them. And again, that's with all due respect to Jimmy Johnson and who was a made man by the time he got here. But I'm really excited by what could happen here with Mike McDaniel. All right, Furones, we've come to our final segment here. Dolphins versus Broncos. Who you got on Sunday? I'm going to go first here. I'm going to go Dolphins 34-20, and I'm going to say Tyreek Hill has a big day. That's really going out on a limb, isn't it, by me? We've never seen that before. Yeah, we've never seen Tyreek have a big day. But it's the Dolphins' home debut, the home opener, their only home game among their first 4 games of the season. So I don't know if the players look at it like we've got to get this. It's our only home game among the first 4. But that's how I look at it. And Denver, I alluded to it earlier, Sean Payton, Russell Wilson, this marriage right now doesn't look like it's going to be long lasting. So I'm going Dolphins in a fairly comfortable victory, 34-20. Who you got, Furones?
Okay, I'll say Dolphins as well. And, 34-20, you have them winning by 2 touchdowns. I think the spread is about a touchdown.
I think it's 7.
I'm going to say 28-17 Dolphins. I really like a lot of the storylines in this game between, Vic Fangio was Broncos head coach, now Dolphins defensive coordinator. Bradley Chubb also, he was over there. Even Butch Berry, offensive line coach, he was much maligned for the job he did in the same role last year with Denver. But now, hey, you got to give him credit. And he was even maligned when he had his 1 year leading the Miami Hurricanes offensive line. And he's got the blockers up front looking real good for the Dolphins so far this year. Maybe just change of scenery, working with McDaniel, who they've worked together before. You mentioned Tyreek Hill having a big game. Yeah, not going out on a limb, but if he's going against Patrick Surtain, Patrick Surtain the second, then that's going to be a tough matchup. So that's why I do want to see Jalen Waddle in this game, because if Surtain is locking down one side, where maybe we saw, okay, Bill Belichick, he had the bracket coverage and allotting resources to Hill and holding him to 5 receptions for 40 yards, although he did get the touchdown. But I think that's why you want those two guys, and not only Surtain, but Jerry Jeudy, Broward County guys, homecoming for them. So that'll be actually. I wish Pat Surtain, the first senior, was still on the Dolphins staff.
Right.
So we had that sort of the father son, which I covered at American Heritage when they were together, with the younger one coming up through the ranks as a 5-star recruit, eventually going to Alabama, and the father, of course, leading that high school team. And here's another interesting nugget. Tua Tagovailoa has 9 straight wins against Super Bowl winning coaches, just tied for the longest streak all time. Of course, going 5-0 against Bill Belichick helps with that a lot. So he can actually get the record this week because he's facing Sean Payton. So that would make it 10 straight. So
wow.
Other ones in that include John Harbaugh, Mike Tomlin, Sean Payton with the Saints on a Monday Night Football game 2021, and a lot of people won't get this other one if it was trivia. John Gruden, 2020 in Las Vegas, that Christmas or day after Christmas game. He started and then had to get subbed by Ryan Fitzpatrick, but if you don't count that one, then he also did sub in late in a Ravens game against John Harbaugh. So those two even out.
Yep. All right. Nice, man. Now look at you. That's a second Furones bonus for us.
That's the real bonus right there. That one was unplanned, right?
That's right. Hey,
we're in the double bonus. It's the double bonus out here.
Oh, there you go. Getting a little NBA action in us for us.
Yeah.
Hey,
next get a possession arrow next for the next episode.
That's right. Hey, real quick here. We're running out of time here, even though we don't really have a clock. Two things that I want to get
this is
from you.
A baseball game. Now they do have clocks in baseball. So
right. I know. I need a pitch clock actually, because I stumbled getting these questions out. All right, Furones, the center quarterback exchange. How concerned are you with that? And then if Jalen Waddle does not play, how do the Dolphins fill in for him? We saw they surprised us on the Jalen Phillips substitution last week. But center quarterback exchange, and how do you substitute for Jalen Waddle if he can't play?
Yeah, I mean, it's a concern, these snap exchanges, but it's not like you're going to make a change. Connor Williams has just been so exceptional as a blocker, as a center, in everything after the snap. So, and probably a lot of the pre-snap and anchoring that offensive line as well. That's coming from being a guard his first 4 years. So he's just been so good as a blocker that you just got to coach him up, get him to correct it, and then hope that it doesn't come back at the worst possible times, which it kind of did this last game. But just keep working on it. They got to get it right.
And look, the Chargers, you could argue that it's cost them 10 points, right? Because the snap at the Chargers game on the 3-yard line, and then they attempt that 55-yard field goal. McDaniels said he was going to go for it. I don't know what you do about this center quarterback exchange. It was a problem last year in preseason, not really during the season. Or training camp, I guess, and now it's been a problem during the season. You're not going to substitute Connor Williams. This is 2 veteran guys, Tua and Connor. I don't know if they have to do an extra 20 snaps per day to get it straight, but they're 2 veteran guys. I don't know what you do about it. But I am concerned because you could argue that it's cost them 10 points already. And look, on Jalen Waddle, they did surprise us on the Jalen Phillips thing, going with Van Ginkel instead of Emmanuel Ogbah. My thought is you give a bigger workload to the guys that are out there, right? Berrios and River Craycraft and Eric Ezukama. Maybe you activate Cedric Wilson. Maybe you elevate Robbie Chosen. But I think you probably spread it out among the guys who have already been playing more so than giving more work to Ced Wilson or Chosen. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm with you there. And Braxton Berrios, River Craycraft. By the way, how mad, I tweeted this, did Bill Belichick have to be watching Braxton Berrios, River Craycraft, and Durham Smythe? Specifically, those guys catch a bunch of passes. Correct. You know what I'm getting at.
Correct.
With Bill Belichick specifically.
Hey, Wes Welker might have been happy.
Yeah, and Wes Welker coaching them on top of it all.
Yes, because he got him. He got Bill. Yeah. So, all right, Furones. Well, look, that's this week's edition of Dolphins Deep Dive. Thanks for joining us. You can join us next Tuesday at noon, sunsentinel.com. And remember, get us on whatever platform you get your podcast. We will see you next week, noon, sunsentinel.com.